Shalom. All praises to the Most High. Anoka said, praise be to the earthly mother, the Pachamama, and all of her earthly angels, the Erkadeshoi. Praise be to the Holy Spirit, the Kahe, in the name of his only begotten Son, Moth to the Lamb, unification to the nation. So I hope I don't have a long video tonight. I just wanted to get out some more information. So I've been reading some under the radar websites. This is one of the ones that King dropped that he suggested. So I was looking at it, and there's a lot of interesting things in it. One of the big things that I've noticed is that they're actually placing the Red Sea as the Indian Ocean. Why is that? Because they're trying to figure out how did the Israelites get from Australia to the Middle East, because they believe that this is the origin, right? But the point is that even this person realizes, and this person comes from the perspective that the Israelites were Caucasians, were Europeans, or giants, or whatever people say. So he's coming from the perspective of that angle. But what he doesn't realize is that the Canaanites were everywhere the Israelites were. And because of the concept of Canaan comes from Ham, people think that the Canaanites are dark Hamites, and they are not at all. In fact, they couldn't be further from that. But I found it interesting that he put the Red Sea, which is really the Reed Sea, which he's still mistranslating, because he goes into a lot of Hebrew translations but doesn't touch the Red Sea, because everyone's argument usually falls apart when it goes to the Red Sea or the Reed Sea, because there are barely any places where there are reeds, like a large body of water with freshwater reeds growing out of it. Very few places. It has to be almost like an Amazonic environment. So it can't be here. But he is saying that there is some sort of really, really old connection that goes to Australia, which we know was connected to Antarctica. And he believes that the Tower of Babel was actually in Australia. He believes that the land of Shinar is in Australia. And he equated Sinem to Shinar, and I was like, wait, maybe. And he also brings out how the Maori, they have a similar story of Noah's Ark being in New Zealand. And I think it's Aoraki's canoe. And he's equating that to Noah's Ark. But he's pretty much saying that the land of Shinar was in Australia. He's pinpointing the fact that the oldest stuff actually comes from the Pacific area. And I'm going to show you a video of these people who wrote the Keys of Enoch. They said something similar. And they find something very odd about Peru. They can't put their finger on it, but there's something about that place. But let's read this story, and then we'll get into the video. It is from our Aoraki that the story of but these people should begin. The relationship between our people and the land begins in the ancient times of Aoraki and the creation of the South Island. I'm not going to read this. It's pretty much a story that, I'll leave this in the description. I don't even want to read this. I just want to get to the video.
Regarding Corral in Peru, there's been some kind of structures, really open structures, no walls, no more bodies found, no weapon, anything, and no, skeletons, nothing was discovered. And now we're tracing it back, or people like Greg Braden are starting to say, well, these, what happened, this changes everything in our history books.
Exactly. We're just down in Monteverde, Chile, with permission of the Chilean government, and Desiree and I were taken to an archaeological zone which shows evidence of social organization, even small toys for children, going back some 30 to 33,000 years ago. So it shows a whole evolutionary development from South America across the Pacific at a very early point of time. In fact, this information is so sensitive, classical anthropologists do not want to talk about it, but yet.
So he takes it a step further. He says that not only did it come from the Pacific, because this person just says, well, everything came from Australia. But this person takes it a step further and said, no, civilization came from South America, then went across the Pacific, then came to the Middle East, Africa, Asia.
Yes, from that point to what we found in Peru and what we found in Brazil suggests that there are many other earlier footprints of civilization that are just beginning to tweak our consciousness. I brought with me also a picture of my work in Egypt beneath the Giza Plateau outside of the great city of Cairo, where in 1997 on an expedition, Desiree and I were privileged to be part of that group using ground-penetrating radar to find the lid of the tomb of Osiris. Zawi Hawass took credit for this 2 years later in a national news release, but he did say on Fox Television there was a group 2 years earlier that began to do the original probe beneath the sands of Egypt. And so we're finding ancient tombs, we're finding ancient corridors of information that we believe hold the treasures of knowledge of why Egypt is so important, like certain island societies in the Pacific and South America.
And what we believe is that very possibly people came from the Pacific Rim, Japan, and areas of Indonesia, and because the water levels, we know at that time, were much lower, the islands perhaps were much bigger, they came across to South America. So South America may have been inhabited first. And what's interesting, in parts of Brazil, we're even finding petroglyphs that show beings with 6 fingers and 6 toes. So it also might have been a race. Now,
Did you just hear that? Who are the Canaanites? She said petroglyphs? I have to look that up. Is that how you say it? She said Brazil. Petroglyphs in Brazil. I have to look that up on my own time. Let me see. 6 fingers. They only show me the 3-finger one. Oh, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wow. Wow. That's crazy. You gotta be kidding me, man. Insane. Quickly, Alfredo Gamarro, we went over this before, but he thinks that the land of Shinar is in South America. And he particularly thinks that the Tower of Babel was in Peru, which is a possibility. You know, anything's a possibility. I just find all this stuff to be very interesting. But the point that I'm trying to bring, as I'm not necessarily sure where everything is. The only thing I'm kind of sure on is where Jerusalem is. But everything else is kind of up in the air for me. I'm guessing ancient Egypt was in Antarctica. That's what it seems, which was connected to Australia. And it's kind of hard to make the claim because of the fact that they're lying about the map, for one. Especially about Antarctica, because they don't want you to know what the shape of the Earth looks like. So that's always a pain. It's kind of hard to me to it's hard for me to visualize everything because everything kind of out of place. So that's something else. But let's continue with this.
The Bible talks about 6 fingers and 6 toes connected with the giants. So here's another species that might have lived in South America at the time, perhaps 50,000 years ago, because this is what they're dating some of the Brazilian rock art. They found ash remains, and when they dated it, they found that it could be as old as 50,000 years ago. This is amazing.
Your ancestors.
The changes that we're finding in the New World is really awakening us to the fact that there were people here a lot longer, more civilized.
So why she still call it the New World? What's wrong with these people? Is like, I don't know. It's like they just have a spirit of ignorance on them. You just said that there were civilizations here much older than in the so-called Old World. So why are you still calling the New World the Old World and the Old World the New World? Like, what in the heck? You could barely find things from a few thousand years ago in that land of the so-called Middle East. But you find things from 50,000 years ago according to your carbon dating, and this is still the New World? This is just ignorance, but, you know, it is what it is. Let me see if there's anything more.
And I was going to say, with higher intelligence, and I already understood that they could transform, because if there is no bones or anything found, I mean, technically they have transformed themselves in light beings, or what has happened?
Well, this has been the theory also in Egypt, when some of the very early tombs of the early dynasties, there's also no bodies found, and some of the theory.
Okay, that's about it. I don't think I have to share anything else. Wait a minute. I think there was one other thing. No, there was one other thing I wanted to share. I think it had to do with Australia. I mean, with Antarctica. No, it had to do with it. I don't know what's wrong with this history, but it can never show what I'm ever looking for. Oh, this is ridiculous. Hold up. I hope I still have this tab open. Just give me 1 second, guys. I'm sorry. No. No. So it's not on this one. Is it on this one? Oh, I gotta watch that movie tomorrow. Oh my goodness, did I close it out? Oh, I'm ignorant, bro. But anyway, let me know what you guys think. As always, peace be with you. Selah Kala.